Greetings, parents, guardians, and caregivers. If you are watching this video, your daughter or son has me for career and financial awareness. My name is Mr. Leffler. You can see my email address there on the screen in front of you. I have that email address open pretty much from about 5:30 in the morning until about 3 o'clock every afternoon during the week. Outside of those times, I have 3 children of my own who are compelled to monopolize my time as much as possible. So if you do message me after 3 o'clock during the week, I will probably get back to you early the next morning. If you get back to me or message me Friday afternoon, I might get back to you Sunday evening. More likely, it will probably be Monday morning. If you have questions about anything, never hesitate to email me. If you want to talk, you can always call the school, and one of the secretaries will let me know, and we can have a conference over the phone. This is a brief PowerPoint about what we're going to do in this class, as well as some other important bits of information for you and your child to know. First, what we're going to cover in this class. There's 8 major units. The first unit we cover are careers, and we have the students explore several careers, and from this they will do a couple projects. One of the projects is a speech in front of the class. Another project is or involves them researching and recording facts about 3 separate careers. We like them to spread out a little bit, not just focus on one career, because everybody knows that most times the first career you choose in life isn't usually the one you end up doing. The second one we do is going to be on paychecks and taxes. In that unit, we will go over the fundamentals of writing a check, keeping an accurate checkbook register, which is one of my pet peeves. I can't understand why so many people bounce checks, but people do. As well as the tax unit that just covers some real basic tax forms that they might fill out if they do have a job over the summertime or over the course of a year. Next, we'll get into the savings unit, and we do stress the importance of money management in this class and the importance of savings. Regardless of how young you are, it is very important to always be aware of that aspect of your life. It will benefit you much later in life, as well as saving for special purchases and whatnot. In the checking unit, I talked at a turn here. I referenced the checking unit with paychecks and taxes. With the checking unit, that's when we'll get into writing checks and keeping an accurate checkbook register. With paychecks and taxes, let me back up a little bit. We talk about the different types of pay that people earn, whether it's a salaried position, whether it's an hourly position, and the pros and cons of that. One great example of a pro for hourly would be the ability to earn overtime. The next unit is budgeting. This is an interesting unit for me, especially when I ask the question to my classes. Pretend you're on your own, you're renting your own apartment, you have a car that you're leasing or making payments to own, and take the next 5 to 10 minutes and then write down everything you will be responsible for financially over the course of a week or a month, or maybe something that just comes up maybe once or twice a year. I am always, I don't want to say entertained, to find that they usually come up with less than 10 items. Both you and I all know that there are a lot more than 10 items that we must take into consideration when budgeting. And then from there we do a little bit of math to try to figure out what would have to be their annual gross pay, their net pay to cover expenses that we go over. Next we get into credit and the advantages of credit and how it's necessary, especially in today's world if students plan on perhaps purchasing a house someday down the road, and really some of the pitfalls of using credit, how easy it is to use and how quickly people can get into debt, as well as credit card fraud. I'm guessing most of you who are listening and watching this have probably at some point had your identity hacked, and how much of a pain that can be if you don't stay on top of your finances. The next unit is our housing unit. We focus mostly on apartments, renting apartments, what you must have in place to rent an apartment, what the parts of a lease are, why it's important to read all the elements of a lease, and certain things like that. Investing is the last unit we cover during the year. We don't get into real in-depth investment terms here. We cover some of the basics, some stock stuff, some mutual fund things, and sometimes we get some virtual games going on where we'll give the kids basically monopoly money and say pick 3 or 4 stocks, and we're going to track them for a month or two to see how well they do, or how the market moves based on what's going on in the world, etc., etc., etc. Now, the grades for this class are determined by a couple elements. The first one, which will probably, I would say, account for about 30% of their grades, are the unit tests. They will all be taken on Schoology. Typically, I like to administer those tests when the students are physically in school. However, if we must go online and virtual, there are some special occasions where I'll let the kids take them while they're at home. Computer projects, this probably counts for about the same amount or same weight as unit tests. I'd say at about 30 to 40%. Usually with each unit, we will have one major project and maybe a couple smaller projects. And the computer projects deal primarily with either iMovie, PowerPoint, some Excel stuff, and using some of the Microsoft Word tools. Homework, I don't assign a lot of this. Probably on the high end, 10 homework assignments during the semester. On the low end, 5. It's typically current articles I put out there regarding our curriculum for during that unit, and they usually have to answer anywhere from 10 to 15 questions from the article. Extra credit, I'll do several extra credit reviews, primarily through a Kahoot, and I base the extra credit on the percent correct answers that the students get during the Kahoot. And that varies from Kahoot to Kahoot. Sometimes there's 10 questions, sometimes there's 20, sometimes there's 25 questions. I do offer other small extra credit projects throughout the semester. And again, if we're all in school, which is great, a lot of times I like having verbal me questioning and them answering back with their hands raised, and they get the extra credit that way. Due dates and partial credit. I usually will assign a due date and as soon as the grade is past due on PowerSchool, I will put a 0. And I do tell all my classes that that only becomes a permanent 0 once the marking period ends. So for example, if there was something due today and the student did not turn it in, I would put a 0 in their grade for that particular assignment. But they would have until the end of the marking period to get that project submitted for partial credit, of course. The daily game plan, and this is something that is one of the most important things for me communicating with my students. Every single day, I send a message through Schoology to all my classes, basically telling them the game plan for the day, reminders of what's due, if they are supposed to be at a Google Meet, what assignments can be found where, and a few other things. It may take them at most 3 or 4 minutes to read through it. It's important that they read through this every single day. It clears up a lot of confusion, and it lets me know that they are invested in their grades. If I see a student doesn't respond to questions I put out there on Schoology, or they're constantly turning things in late, my first guess is usually they're not checking their messages, so they have no idea what they're doing. And this typically is when students are online. In school, I have them in front of me. I can give them the reminders, but when people are online, that's when we get into kids falling behind, and sometimes it's difficult to get caught up. The videos you see there, sometimes if I'm doing some functions in Word or PowerPoint or iMovie, I'll put together like a 5-minute video demonstrating what they can use to enhance their project's creativity, perhaps, for the particular software that they're using. PowerPoints, for many of the units, we will go through PowerPoints each day in class to cover some terms and concepts, and I have them enter some examples for the particular material for the day. I will also put the PowerPoints on Schoology. This is important for kids that miss maybe a certain length of time, where they can fill out their outlines even though they're not actually in class. Kahoot reviews, I talked about that before. typically before a major test, I'll do 2 or 3 Kahoot reviews. And I always tell the kids, if you want me to send you an individual Kahoot review, I can do that. It takes me a couple of seconds if they want to do some extra practicing before the test. Project work time. I like to dedicate about 30 minutes each class to giving the kids some time in class to work on their projects. I know they're typically busy, but I do like giving them the benefit of the doubt that they are doing some work outside of class, so I don't want to dedicate entire class blocks for just project time, but I do like to dedicate a chunk of time during each day. Google Meets. I will have Google Meets open when we are virtual. Sometimes they are required to show up to the Google Meets. Other times I simply say in my daily message, if you have any questions whatsoever, my Google Meet is open all block. I will help you. I've never said no to helping any student, so it's important. And I just must reiterate that the importance of telling your son or daughter if they are having trouble keeping up in class, if they are confused about something. I don't know that until they actually ask me or message me. Some kids are shy about that, so a lot of them will message me and we can figure out what's going on there. But I cannot stress the importance of just communicating with me if there are any issues or they're confused about anything. All right, parents, guardians, caregivers, that's it. My inbox for my email is open almost every single day. I look forward to working with your son or daughters this semester. And as always, take care, be well, and hopefully we stay in class the entire year. Have a great day and be well. Mr. Leffler signing off.